Welcome to the Student Counselor Podcast, Season 2, the show helping counseling students and new clinicians launch the career that they've been working so hard for. I'm your host, Vitor, and founder of Pro Counselors LLC, and I'm very glad that you're here. On today's episode, we're going to cover everything about Pro Counselors LLC consulting services, which are specifically for counseling students and new clinicians. So I'm so excited to dive deeper into that. On episode 1, we kind of touched on it a little bit for those that have been following my Instagram journey and social media content. I also have a TikTok and all of that stuff now. This video is on YouTube. For those of you that knew me from a little bit of, from before, from season 1 and from launching the business online, you know a little bit about these services. But I'm going to go in depth today to explain to you how I've been helping counseling students across the country and what the goal of these services are. So I'm glad that you're here. Come in, let's talk about it. Let's dive deeper into this topic. And I wanted to start here, not because this is a sales pitch whatsoever. It really isn't. But because, again, it is the core of why this podcast is returning. Why I've launched this business in the first place. It's a huge pillar of my business, and I wanted to start early on already kind of talking about it, as we will, of course, talk more about each of these along in different episodes. I most likely will interview guest speakers and ask questions about things that are related to the services that I offer to get their perspective on it as well, so I can learn from it too, because that's the type of student that I am now. But that's why I need to start there, because that is the core of why I'm here, why this podcast is back, why season 2 is here, why Pro Counselor was built. Okay. So Pro Counselors, as I mentioned on episode 1, if you haven't heard that, go back and check it out. Pro Counselors LLC has the therapy business and then the consulting business, right? There are 2 pillars under one umbrella, under one brand. Today, we're going to focus mostly on the consulting side of things, but wanted to kind of also briefly touch on the therapy side and the type of clientele that I've been treating. And I'll probably have an episode on that here in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. But the difference is again, therapy is therapy. Consulting is non-therapeutical, right? These are career services specifically for students. But on the therapy side of things, the therapy side of my business is focused specifically on young adults, emerging professionals, and therapy students. And of course, Florida only. That's where I live. That's where I'm licensed. And I've been lucky in the last 7 months to have some clients that are specifically targeted to that demographic that I want to do. I have also clients that are not necessarily that specifically, emerging professionals, therapy students, those trying to figure out their identity and their career moves, school, and all of that. I have clients for a lot of different, situations, and I'm trying to find ways to, of course, not break confidentiality here. But I have clients of all different issues, mental health issues, or problems at home, family issues, relationship issues. I have clients with different, diagnoses that I've been, in a sense, kind of glad that I've had the experience to work with so early on in my career. It has taught me a lot. So very, very, very glad. The therapy side of the business is very much part-time. The whole business is right now. I still work full-time. But the therapy side of the business, I only see clients in the evening. 6 to 8, those are my 2 slots. I have 2 clients that I could see per day, and that is pretty much it. The consulting side of the business, I fit them in between when I don't have clients in the evening or even on the weekends. Whenever it is, a lot of these services, I can basically work on it at my own leisure, at my own time. So it's easy to kind of fit that around my schedule, especially considering that as we go through each of these services here, and I'm kind of looking at my iPad for some assistance, you will see that a lot of these services, there's sometimes not even a session that goes with it, sometimes just a phone call. And it's basically a phone call to talk with the person to understand their needs. And once that's done, I basically work on it behind the scenes for them. And then I deliver the services to them, a resume or whatever, a list of internship sites. So we'll talk more about that here in a second. So I can fit that whenever I can fit it in between, my job, in between my therapy clients, evenings, weekends, whenever I can. And I've given myself a big window to the delivery of these services for consulting. So it kind of works. It has been working well so far, right? But what are these services? That's what I'm here to kind of break down. I kind of gave you guys a glimpse of it on the episode 1, but I wanted to kind of break down what those services are, right? So again, that's Pro Counselors. 2 pillars, therapy and consulting. So think of it as like, if you're in Florida, you need therapy, I got you. Especially if you're an emerging professional, therapy student even, that's my bread and butter. I love working with emerging professionals, those trying to figure out their careers, therapy students who are overwhelmed with grad school, overwhelmed with internship, figuring out their careers. Love working with therapy students in a therapeutical space as well. So I'm here for that if you're seeking. But if you're a counseling student, and that goes for counseling students across the country, okay, my consulting services are available to you. These consulting services are non-therapeutical. I have all of that specifically written in all of the agreements. And it basically is to just help therapy students, counseling students get their career off the ground, right? That's the consulting side of the business. So that's Pro Counselors. 2 services, 2 different needs, both under the one roof, okay? So let's talk about these consulting services. Currently, I basically offer 4 services. I have resume review, resume creation, and then I have internship search assistant and interview preparation. These 4 services are priced differently, of course, and their prices are subject to change. So if you ever need that, you got to check out my website and see what's currently available. I know that for a fact that's going to be going up here soon. But usually the one that I've been helping most people with is resume review. I can't tell you how many students just want someone to glance at their resume before they start applying for internships left and right. I can't tell you how many people that have never built a resume before, or maybe never built a resume for mental health, or maybe haven't built a resume in a while because they come from careers and jobs before that they were at for 5, 10 plus years, and they don't even know what a standard resume looks like these days. And some people just need someone to review it, right? And that's where I come in. I basically have built these services in to go along with the experience that I have as a healthcare recruiter. I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And I've interviewed so many people. I've seen thousands of resumes at this point. I've seen really good resumes and really bad resumes. I see people send me resumes that they took with, their camera pictures, and I've seen that. I've seen it all. Let's just say that. Okay. And that experience that I've built through healthcare recruiting, which is specifically for nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and physicians, I basically grabbed that knowledge, that background, and now catering to my counseling students, to the counseling world, to the mental health professionals. Okay. Interesting enough, there was a period at the agency where I'm at, the staffing agency where I currently work in, that we actually dabbled into LCSWs, so licensed clinical social workers. We've done a little bit of mental health counseling. It didn't last too long. The return on investment for the company and what we needed to find and source those individuals to place them wasn't working out. But I got to see a lot of resumes for mental health professionals as well. So I understand the clinical background that needs to be included in these resumes. And even if you put those resumes aside, and if you just focus on just resumes, period, there's a standard that comes from a resume, regardless if we're talking about an engineer or, a person just applying to a regular job. There's a standard that should be considered for resumes, especially in today's age where we're submitting our resumes into these websites with a lot of different tracking tools and AI features that search exactly what they're looking for on a candidate before it even gets to a recruiter's desk. Recruiting is good and recruiters do see and glance and review resumes, but sometimes before it even gets to them, it gets reviewed by an AI, by a bot, by a system, or as we call them, ATS systems, right? Applicant tracking systems. So having someone look at your resume, it's super important, right? Especially again, if you have no experience with it, no knowledge on how to go about it. That's one of the services that I offer. And the most, how do I say it? The cheapest, I guess, service that I offer, because honestly, I'm just reviewing your resume and I provide you a one-page doc of some points to consider, and that's pretty much it. And we have a conversation over the phone, and that is pretty much it. That's what the resume review is, right? It's just for me to review your resume, glance at it, look at it. What will I change? What will I add? Using the expertise and knowledge that I've accrued throughout the last 7 years as a healthcare recruiter. Okay. However, some people actually need help with resume creation. They don't have the time for it. They don't even know how to start. And they just need someone to help them create their resumes. And I offer that as well. So resume creation, again, those are for students who are looking to start from scratch, right? They're looking to build a resume from zero, from nothing, or maybe from an old file, right? From 5-10 years ago, resume, and you want to make something completely new that is up to industry standards, right? So those are custom built around their clinical experience or their education or their previous roles and how it ties in to the mental health field. So why is that important? Well, you might think that I'm going into private practice. I don't need a resume. Who cares? I'm gonna be my own, self-employed, whatever, business owner. I don't need a resume. Sure. But students, though, will need a resume whenever they're applying for an internship sites. You will need it, right? And maybe you're not dealing with the site that has all of these filters in place, these AI bots in place, right? Maybe you're applying to a local private practice and you're speaking directly with the owner. But you want to come in with confidence that your resume is well constructed, right? That is well built, that is industry standards, that it looks cohesive, that it looks nice and beautiful, that it highlights your experience, even if they're non-clinical and they're from completely different careers. I can't tell you how many students that I helped that came back to me after and said, man, I got so many compliments on my resume. Like, so many people have come and thanked me after these services were delivered, resume review or resume creation, that just tell me like, man, it helped me so much. Thank you so much. And that's why I'm here. That's why I offer these services to my counseling students. Again, we're dealing with counseling students who are students full-time, working full-time oftentimes. They're going to become interns oftentimes without being paid. They have families, kids to take care of, other responsibilities, right? You name it. There's so much going on in a counseling student's life, along with the fact that they're internally judging themselves throughout the whole grad school, because you're learning about human development and what's right and what's wrong and what's this and what's that. And I mean, there's a whole personal development that comes from just being a grad student in counseling. And that it takes a lot of pressure, that takes a lot of emotional, just emotional things out of you. I'm losing my words here, but it's just draining, right? It's emotionally draining to become a counselor. That's what I mean. It's emotionally draining to become a counselor because you're learning about human behaviors, human development. And while you're doing all of that, you're constantly judging yourself and analyzing yourself. And then you have to learn how to apply that with others and how to remain fun and lighthearted in session without judgment. And there's like so much going on. And then to do that while you're caring for families, while you're working full-time jobs because your internship is going to be unpaid, to do all of that and then consider that, like, man, I also need a resume. I haven't even thought of that. Like, where do I start? That's who I'm here to help. That's the counseling student that Pro Counselor aims to help. And that's why the one of the slogans that I'm using right now for the consulting side of the business is helping counselors think like pros before becoming one. Because your resume can already look like a pro, regardless if you have no clinical experience. Your resume can look like a pro just because you're applying for your very first internship role, your very first practicum role. And sure, you might come from a completely different career, engineer or whatever it is that you did before. Let's make sure that resume speaks to why you're here in the first place, right? And sometimes we don't even have the time to process that. And that's the gap Pro Counselor looks to fill, to help students think like pros before becoming one, because they absolutely can make their resumes look like pros and look phenomenal and stand out even before graduating, even before acquiring experience. Okay? So that's the two services that I offer that are specifically catered towards students and resumes. Okay? Then I also offer Internship Search. I help students find internship sites in their area, regardless of where they are in the country. How do I do that? Well, I have 7 years of healthcare experience, recruiting experience, that I basically do the same thing in my day job to look for clients, to look for hospitals, to look for private practices so I can help them make sure they're fully staffed. I basically do the same thing that I do in my day job, but towards my counseling students, and I help them find large organizations that are looking, or small private practices that are looking, or sometimes places that are not looking. I help them find those. And you might be thinking, but hey, I could just go on Google and search places near me and find, people. Sure, you absolutely can, and you might be successful that way. But again, it comes down to it. Do you have the time to do it? Can you do it on your own, or do you need some support so you're not feeling burnt out or exhausted from this whole grad experience? Or maybe you can find it on your own and maybe you do have the time for it, but perhaps you're not targeting the right email contact. Maybe you're just sending an email to the basic HR email from these large groups. Or maybe within the private practice world, you're emailing the info.blah.com email. And that email lands on their spam folder or junk folder, and they never see or hear from you. And I help students find direct emails to CEOs, private practice owners in their area. You tell me where you're looking for and where. We're going to have a conversation over the phone. I'm going to tell you exactly how this process will go down. You're going to tell me what you're looking for. If you have a preference in a population, the demographics, or a specific type of place. Hey, I like working with substance abuse. I'm going to probably encourage you to branch out and consider other options as well, because that's important too. But I'm going to also try to find things that are related to you. And it's not just a matter of finding places that are perhaps new or you've never heard of it. It's about finding the correct contact information, the right email to send that welcome email to, that email introduction that says, hi, I'm a student. Do you have practicum openings? That's the gap I'm looking to fill with the Internship Search assistance. Okay. And then I also have the interview preparation service. This interview preparation service is basically a one-to-one call with me where I help you prepare for an interview. This usually is for those students who never interviewed for a role in their lives. I work with a lot of young adults, people that are getting their masters at like 22, 23, which, man, I find that amazing. I completed my master's at 32. There's people that are completing these degrees with little to no background into the job market or into interviews, right? So some people just need some help and support with that. So I've provided that kind of support to those students that need interview preparation. Or hey, maybe you haven't interviewed in a while, or you're just not sure how to present yourself, or you're not as confident. You need someone to process this with. Then hey, who better to do it than with an experienced recruiter who basically talks to people about jobs for a living and been doing that for the last 7 years. So that's kind of how I help my counseling students with interview preparation. So that's the 4 services that I offer currently. And oftentimes I also get students that want 2 or 3 services. In those cases, reach out to me directly. I do try to give you a bundle, something that's catered to you based on what you need. So if you're not sure what you need, just go to my website, pro-counselors.com, go to the consulting page, fill out a form, and then you will see over there message, and then you can kind of say what you're looking for, and we can schedule a call, jump on a phone call, do a free phone consultation to understand exactly what you might need, and then I might put an offer that's catered to you. This isn't a sales pitch though. Okay, I know this is episode 2 and this is what the podcast is going to be about. No. But I have to mention this early on because, again, this is the gap I'm looking to fill. I'm using the expertise and knowledge that I have as a healthcare recruiter in the last years that I've been doing that, the last 7 years that I've been doing that. I'm using that expertise in recruiting to help my counseling students because I know they need help. I'm in those counseling groups out there on Facebook, and there's plenty. I'm in those groups where people are saying, I'm struggling to find a site. What should my resume look like? Can someone please help? What should I say on this interview? Blah, blah, blah. There's so many. You join one of those groups, you will see there's thousands, and not, there's thousands of posts out there about those specific questions. And I don't think there's ever been a company, at least to my knowledge, I haven't seen a company that targets that specific gap that the counseling world is missing, that counseling students are missing. And that's what I aim to do with Pro Counselors Consulting Services, to help counseling students think like pros before becoming one. Because you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to deal with being an unpaid intern or getting little to no money while having to work full time, caring for kids and family, and have all these other responsibilities along the way, learning about yourself, learning about how to present yourself to others. You don't have to do all of that along with building your resume alone, finding an internship site alone. And even though your school may provide some of these counseling career services, they're often not done by an experienced recruiter, or let alone one that is also a therapist. So I hope that this gives you an idea of what I can do to help and support you if you're looking for these services. But I also hope that gives you an idea of why I'm back as well and why this podcast is returning. And no, it's not to pitch my services over and over again on every episode, but it's to show you that this gap exists. That's why I created this business. And that's the conversations that I look to continue to have with students that are going to come on the show, with other licensed professionals that are launching their careers. That's the gap I am looking to fill. That's the conversations I'm looking to have. So if you have any questions, anything, please feel free to reach out. I also have some free guides on my website. If you go to my website right now, there's some free guides, a template for your resume. There's a free guide on finding internship sites and how to go about that search. So do take your time to go to my website, review it, reach out to me via Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, send me a message, send me an email. All my contact info is somewhere, wherever you're seeing this content now. So check out my website, pro-counselors.com. I do look forward to working with you if you have these needs. And I do look forward to having more conversations about careers with my counseling students, because I know you guys need them, because I needed them too. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.